Good evening. Hi, I'm Father Edna Donnelly from the Father and the Donnelly Good News Fund. And today we're having a show just for you, that you're my guests. So all you have to do is call us at 860-321-7405. 860-321-7405. Something you always want to ask a priest or are afraid to ask. So if you just tuned in, stay with us for a while. Maybe not for the whole hour, but give us your presence and give us your ideas. Give us some of your thoughts. Whether it's political, religious, environment, global warming, the earth, the war, Iran, Iraq, marriage, our government, any topic that you'd like to talk about, and you're the authority. So you'll give me the question, and then I'll do the best I can, and then you'll work with me, and we'll come to a conclusion, okay? So it's 860-321-7405. Over the last month, a couple months now, I've been working on Sundays and Mondays at the hospital, at St. Francis Hospital. And it's a great education to see, well, maybe I anointed at least 500 people. I average close to 100, sometimes it's over 100, but it's 80. But I've been doing that for a couple months now, on a Sunday and a Monday. I like Sunday because all the doctors are gone, and I can go from room to room. On Monday, there's a lot more activity, so it takes a lot of time. But I hate to put on that yellow protection gown, and then the gloves that never fit. And the mask I don't mind, but the gloves and the yellow covering to protect you from bringing in any disease or coming out with some. And you got to foam. Every time you go into a room, you got to foam, and when you come out, you got to foam. So I'm all foamed out. I must have done it at least 1,000 times, coming in and going out. Or at least going in, not all the time going out. But as soon as I get out of one room, I have to foam before I get into the other room. So I've experienced death. I've experienced all kind of sicknesses. But the two that really upset me most of all, and I've been a priest for 60 years, and the things that upset me most of all is when you get up in the morning and you're fine. The next day you have a stroke. Imagine how your life has changed. You're fine today. The next day you have a stroke and you can't talk, or your arm is paralyzed, your leg is paralyzed, and you are dependent on others for the rest of your life. That upsets me, because when somebody's in their late 80s or 90s or 100, you know that the heart's just wearing out. I was talking to a physician on the elevator. I says, "What's your claim to fame?" He says, "I'm a heart specialist." I said, "What's your most frequent patient?" That the congestive heart failure. The heart just kind of wears down and wears down and wears down until it can't pump anymore. And I see a lot of that, people in the 80s. In fact, most of the people in the hospital are in their 80s. They're like I am. I'm closer to the tomb than I am to the womb. And but the other one that upsets me very much is when I walk in and a fella's going like this or a woman's going like this, and she's got a detox from drugs or from alcohol. And they're usually young people in their 20s, 30s, some 40s. I found one guy in his 50s, but he's been on drugs for a long time. And the other thing that upset me is I walk in a room and a patient said, "Father, I've been here for 3 days. Where have you been?" I said, "Well, I just came on today. Today's Sunday." So I wasn't around on Thursdays or Fridays or Saturdays. And she starts crying. She says, "Tell me about her son, who's a drug addict. She lives in in an apartment, Section 8, a Section 8 apartment. So she's not supposed to have anybody living with her except herself. And he comes trashing in all the time. But he's 46. You know, a mother never stops being a mother. And she's all upset about him. I said, well, if he keeps on overdosing, someday he's going to overdose and he's going to die. Not that he wants to commit suicide, but sometimes you don't realize what you're doing. So I don't realize that I just tuned in. My name is Father Ed Donnelly, and my telephone number is 860-321-7405. 860-321-7405. And I'll drink to that. So I felt so sorry for this mother who was very sick, and she's worried about her son because he's overdosing. And you know that every 18 seconds, 3 people overdose. Every 18 seconds. But the other great tragedy is that every 40 seconds, somebody commits suicide. Every 40 seconds. And you know, I work with the people at Walker prison, and the high percentage of suicides, once they come out of the prison, they don't have a family, they don't have a job, probably don't have a place to live, and they're out there all by themselves. While they're in prison, they had some kind of community. When they're in prison, they had some heat, electricity, and food, and even a television. But now they go out, and there's nobody to give them that support. That's one of the reasons why we find a tremendous number of men who were in prison are let go, and they just don't have any kind of support, and they end up committing suicide, just like the high rate of suicides among servicemen coming back home. So my name is Father Ed. If you're listening to me, give me a call at 860-321-7405. You don't have to listen to me, just call me. So I've been going to the hospital for a long time, and it's hard. We're living longer, and that's one of the things that majority of people that I see in the hospital are in the 80 years. That's the largest decade of people, those in 80 years. In the old days, they figure you die after 65 years, so they'd have retirement and not worrying about it. But St. Raphael's Hospital closed down because of the retirement benefits. They thought that people would die by 65, but they're not dying. They're in their 80s, 90s. I see people 100 years old. Like today, I saw quite a few people in their 90s, and their mind was clear as really clear. And you didn't know that they were in their 90s unless you looked at the chart. But, so enough about the hospital. But if you'd like to call me at 860-321-7428. That's 860-321-7405. 7405. Okay. Now I'm going to read you a little story about marriage. Anybody married out there? Now listen to this. Sharon had been married to Bob for 7 years. They had 2 beautiful children. But Sharon's mother began to sense that her daughter was starting to go through a hard time in her marriage. One day she called Sharon and said, "Honey, if I pay for a babysitter, will you go shopping with me tomorrow?" Sharon jumped at the invitation. While eating lunch together the next day, after shopping, Sharon's mother leaned over and said to her, "I had a reason for asking you out today." And I'll have to stop now because I think there's a phone coming in, and I'll continue this wonderful story. It may be something that you'd be interested in. So while eating lunch together the next day after shopping, Sharon's mother leaned over and said to her, "I had a reason for asking you to go out today." So I'll take my phone call right now. You're on the air with Father Ed. Hello? Let's see, is this on? I think it's going on. Hello? Let's try it again. You're on the air with Father Ed.
Yes. I hear, Father, that you have a bad cold and I have to be nice to you.
Okay, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me put it up a little more. Don't change your character.
I can't. Impossible.
Yeah, I got a cold. I caught her from I think I caught her from a cat, but no, seriously, I'll live. I feel better already.
All right, well then maybe you'll be, all right, this is the FN Good News Fund. All right, so we have just finished, you finished all the thank you notes, right?
I finished all the thank you notes, yes.
All right, so then we can move on because we have Lent and Easter coming up.
All right, okay. You
Right, so I'm asking you to share with the audience.
Right.
There are a couple of things, a couple of stories that touched you in the hospital recently. One was that there was a patient, and the doctor was in with the patient, and it was getting late, and you were waiting and waiting. It was going to be a half hour. And then you said, no, I have time. You know, Spirit moved you.
Okay, stop there. Let me tell that story. It's not an ego thing, but yeah, it was probably did over 80 patient visitations. And this person was an elderly person. I wanted to go see her. It was the last patient that I wanted to see. And the doctor says, no, we're taking some examination, and I'll let you know. So I said, well, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Like today, it was about 15 minutes before I got in to see that person. So I didn't know, standing around, I said, I think I'll sit down. And I had a chair by one of the nurses. She had left the part. So I just was reading and praying and making some telephone calls and making some contacts. And I was trying to get people involved in the new show that we want to bring in, Tolton from Slave to Priest. And so I was waiting there. And this is about 15 or 20 minutes. I'm not exaggerating. Then I look over, and I was behind a pole. I didn't notice that the doctor already had left. So I went into the room. I saw the daughter. I presumed it was the daughter. So I went into the room, and I said to the lady, my name's Father Nadonley. And this is a 92-year-old lady. That's the only age limit that I relate to. She starts screaming and screaming and screaming and screaming. I never thought I'd meet you for the rest of my life. And she's screaming, and the daughter says, Ma, you're going to have a heart attack. So she kept on, and she was completely bald. She was completely bald. And so I'm trying to quiet her down. Then finally she quieted down, and we had a little conversation. And she says, Father, I want a picture with you. She was in bed. I said, okay. So she yells at her daughter, says, give me my wig. So the daughter gives her the wig, and she puts it on her head, and we take a bedside picture that we had together. But I've never had anybody almost have a heart attack when they saw me. I said, when I was younger, I was good looking, but now I'm just looking good. I didn't think I looked that bad. But it was a wonderful experience for me to have a 92-year-old lady, woman rather, recognize who I was, and then turn around and the way she acted like a teenager. And the daughter was very upset. Ma, calm down, calm down. 92-year-olds. I'd hate to be responsible for a woman dying out of shock after seeing me. So
How about the nurse? Now, is it the same day that this nurse came in and she heard your voice?
Oh yeah, this one very upsets me. I get upset very easily. I'm very sensitive. I walk into one room,
yes,
and I give my card. I have my little prayer there, and I give a card, and the guy looks at me and says, "Are you still alive?" I guess he must have known me when I was a young priest. He couldn't get over the fact that I was still alive. But the one that hurt me most of all, I'm kidding now, of course. I walk in, and this is an older nurse who's probably around when I had my operation back in 1983. And she looked at me, she said, "Are you still around?" And I was ready to knock her out of the bed. But I said, "Yeah, I'm still around here. Here's my card, and you can put." These two people, I guess people expect me to be dead. And I'm only 86. I know I'm closer to the tomb than I am to the womb. But
well, don't you have another birthday coming up next month?
Yeah, I don't want to keep it to myself, but I took out 4 billboards going to say, Father Ed's birthday, February 18th. Please send gift to Father Nadonley Good News Fund. Yeah, so I was thinking about that billboard, but I think that's a little too egotistical. But yeah, coming up. But what other questions do you have about the Good News Fund. Oh, by the way, one of the things that we're doing right now, we're signing up people, shows rather, at parishes and the schools for this Tolton, from slave to priest, the first black priest in the United States after the Civil War. And pray that we get, I have, one thing I have that's new that I'm excited about, that the head of the Vicar of Religious wants to invite all the sisters and the brothers to this show at St. Paul's on March 15th. That's a Sunday afternoon at 2:30. So if anybody's listening to it, mark your calendar. March 15th, Sunday afternoon, 2:30 at St. Paul's High School in Bristol, Connecticut. So it's open to everybody. The Father and Dolly Good News Fund is sponsoring it. So it won't cost anything to go. If you want to make a donation to the St. Luke Productions after, they put it on from Washington. And the fellow who's taking the part is Jim Coleman. He's been on Law and Order. He's been with Anthony Hopkins shows. He does a lot of commercials. And he's been an actor for over 20 years. He's got 6 kids and 11 grandchildren.
How did he get in, how did he get big in those productions? And now he's with St. Luke's, productions. What does he...
He's not even Catholic. When I started, I was looking for a black practicing Catholic who is an actor.
Wow.
We look all over. I found somebody in Sharon, but he was an organist there, and he was working on Broadway. He didn't want to get involved. Somehow it was providential that Jim Coleman heard about it, and he was intrigued by it. Now, he gave up luxurious opportunities for so many options, auditions that he could have had, because he's been with it for 2 years. Now, I'm afraid of it. That's why I'm having it in March, because I don't know if he'll want to renew his contract in the fall. He's not making any money, and he's working hard.
Right. But you also, how many have you done already?
Oh, I've done
last year?
I've done 15 of those shows already, and the reason I'm having it again is because of a African American young boy. We had a show in West Haven at Notre Dame High School. And we had kids from the surrounding areas, from Brantford, from West St. Louis and West Haven, and children from St. Martin de Porres. That's a private school just for poor kids. And they came also. So I was telling the kids that it cost $3,800 to put on each show. In fact, the last time I had 11, so it cost $41,000. I tried to hold up the Webster Bank, but it was too heavy. And so I thought, while I was talking to the kids, this little young boy, he must have been in middle school, he came up, he said, "Father, could I give you $1? And that touched me. And because of that boy, I'm trying to have the show again. I have 3 shows lined up now, and 3 times 3,800, talking about $12,000, almost $12,000. But I'd like to get another 2 or 3, at least have 5, because I don't want to come all the way from Washington, the state of Washington, to do 1 or 2 shows. So pray that I can find some more people. But that was, I'm excited about that.
It's a movie, right? It's not a movie.
No, it's not a movie. It's a Broadway production. You could go to the Goodspeed Theater, or you can go to Amoodus, or you can go to Palace in Waterbury, or go to the Bushnell in Hartford. That's the kind of a play it is. It's a one-act play, but there are a lot of other characters there, because it's
incorporates film, and he reacts to the film.
That's what blows my mind. The bishop will be talking to him on the screen, and he goes right back. The way it's synced perfectly, and he doesn't miss a beat, because he's having conversations all the time with his mother, with his pastor, with the cardinal, and with the kids and everything. And the sync is just perfect. To me, it's almost miraculous, but that's good. Now, what's your other question that you have? Don't make it too hard, because it's a long day.
Well, why don't you get a drink of water first while you're thinking?
Right now, I'm just drinking that water. Are you watching me, by the way?
No, I've got ESP. I forgot to tell you.
Good.
Okay. So in other words, with the good news, we give an update of so this year, what are the highlights? So you were involved in, you did the Tolton program, you have rosaries, you're still receiving rosaries people are making.
Yeah, I just got another 600 rosary. That's a good point. We send out 55,000 rosaries to Uganda, to Tanzania, Nigeria, Pakistan, India, plus the United States and Connecticut. And where do I get these rosaries? I got one from a box from a man in Rochester. I got one from somebody in Arizona, someone the one I like less though is just an old lady, and she makes these cord rosaries, and she sends them up to me. Then I call her up and thank her for it. But like right now, I have 3 boxes. One's got 500. The other one looks as if it's got 300, and the other one may have 200. So we have close to 1,000 from 3 people. I don't ask for these. They put me on a name. They put my name on a list. So people from all over the country send me these rosaries. And then we put them in a big container, a tub. And we'll send 7,000 rosaries at one time. We sent out three barrels, and each one had over 5,000 rosaries to Africa. Oh. So that's one thing. The other thing is now I just ordered another 5,000 crosses. I Love You, Jesus crosses. That's up to 120,000. And they go all over. And I'm bumping into people, like in the hospital. He said, "Oh, Father, I still got that cross you gave me a long time ago in a restaurant or bar, wherever I saw them, and or in church, or wherever I go." I usually, like at the hospital, I stop the nurses or doctors and say, "Are you a nice person?" And they said, "Of course we are." So that's an icebreaker. Then I give them the cross. So wherever I go, I think it's a simple part of evangelization. Then the other one, the billboards, those are very effective. Like the woman who called up and said, "I just had 4th stage cancer, and I saw your billboard. Jesus, I trust in you." Like the fellow who called up last week, he saw the billboard that said Jesus, and he said, "Father, I heard you on TIC saying the Hail Mary, so I stopped in front of your billboard to call you and say that I've come back to Jesus." So you never know the good that happens. How do
they know, though? I mean, how do they get in touch with you?
Because I'm shy, and because I'm very humble, I have my name and my telephone number on each billboard.
And you answer with the phone when they call the number.
Yeah, and sometimes they call at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I tell them, "Can you be depressed at 10 o'clock instead of 3 o'clock?" I get all kinds of calls for for marriage problems, for guilty conscience, for school, for jobs, for money. It's really a parish without boundaries, so you never know what you're going to get. Like lots of times kids will call me when they see the billboard Jesus, and they say, "Where's Jesus?" I said, "Well, God dwells in each one of them." And they get kind of shook up when they realize that I'm not there to condemn them, but to encourage them, that God dwells inside of you. And a lot of them never heard that. One fella called up, he said he was Jewish, and he wanted to get to know more about Jesus. I said, "Well, Jesus is Jewish, but only on his mother's side. So but he was Jewish, so you got something in common. And if you know the Old Testament, you'll see all kind of signs of the coming of Jesus as the Messiah." So that's an example of some of the things of people who call in for the billboard. So I never know. I was in the hospital, and I got 3 calls while I was at the hospital, and they'll call at any time. And many of them, some of them call just to see if anybody answers, and they get all shook up when I answer. "Oh, he's there to answer the phone." Yeah, because I talk to people who probably never talked to any priest or rabbi or minister or imam. People are inquisitive about religion because they have a natural spiritual part of them. And the spiritual part is always asking and inquiring or touching and really touching every person. Because why would anybody be interested in calling me if there wasn't a spiritual part of that person that's yearning to be able to end up having some kind of relationship with God? They could say that a lady came in today and she says, no, I said, could I give I call it trifecta: confession, communion, and anointing of the sick. If you're dying, don't call me. I'm not interested. But just call me. This lady was interesting. And I'd say I got refused. I'm not exaggerating. Over these weeks, I probably anointed at least 500 people. Not one day, but if you're averaging between 50 and 100 patients every day, it adds up after a couple months. And I walked in today to this woman, and she said, I've been rejected probably 5 times. No, I don't want to have anything to do with you. So I walked into this room, and the lady was sitting there, and she told me, I said, where are you from? I'm expecting them to tell me that they're from Sharon or from West Hartford or whatever city.
Yep.
And I'm from London. I said, well, how long have you lived in the United States? 40 years. So they've never emotionally left their homeland. And I said, well, can I give you the sacrament of the sick? And she said, no, I don't want it. And I said, I haven't gone to church in 40 years. Wow. And I said, what priest hurt you? And she looked at me. And then we talked about pedophile priests. We're only less than 5% of the whole population of priests. Mm-hmm. And most of them have, a few of them have abused a large number. So I started talking. I said, well, what priest abused you? Yeah. And she looked at me. And I said, well, you're giving a lot of power to that one priest to drive you out of church. I says, I got 1,500 reasons to leave the church. Who are they? I call them parishioners. And I said, I've had conflicts with the bishops, but I would never give anybody that kind of power to drive me out of the church. I said, the church is Jesus. It's not a bishop. It's not a priest. It's not a layperson. It's Jesus. And I said, your problem is a lot deeper than that pedophile priest of 40 years ago out in London or wherever it was. Yeah. Your real problem is the lack of faith. You don't believe. And she says, yeah, that's really. I said, that priest is just your excuse for not going to church. But the reason is you really don't believe in the real presence of Christ. And if you don't really believe in the real presence of Christ, what is there why come, Stay home and read the Bible by yourself. So, yeah, that one I felt sorry for. The other one whose son is on drugs, and she was just crying and crying and crying. And most of them there are sitting around the bed. It's a grandmother or an elderly father or an elderly mother. That's a little different. And the more kids around, I said, well, boy, this man must have really loved all of you because the way you're responding. And sometimes it's very beautiful as you see a family around person who's dying. Like today I saw a young lady in there, and I said, is that your grandfather? And she said, yes. She says he's slowly dying because he hasn't woken up. So the death process has continued on now. And I said, boy, you must be the spoiled granddaughter. And she looked at me, and
you knew.
And she says, yeah, Father, I am. And she had a smile. But she's just vigil, waiting for her grandfather to die. He hasn't opened his eyes in 3 days. So all his main functions, parts of his body are just slowly, kidneys and liver and everything, and heart is just closing down. And when I talked to the doctor on the phone, he told me that the big part with elderly people is congestive heart failure. Your heart just gets weaker and weaker and weaker. So good. Okay, any other question before I take another drink? Go ahead.
Well, I've got a couple of thank yous I can read to you if you want to get your drink.
Okay, I'm drinking. You can talk while I'm drinking.
This one says, Dear Father Nadomi, I want to thank you for the work you do and the support you give that brings the wonderful performances of St. Luke Productions to our local stages. I was fortunate to have attended the October 9th showing of Tolton at St. Paul High School in Bristol. It was pure blessing. Thank you also for the lovely cross and the wreath.
Well, the Advent wreath I gave people, yeah. We gave out 2,635 of them, 33 of them. I know, because Amanda made them all. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Okay, so she thanks you and for you to, and the good work and God's work that you do.
Yeah, oh, that's wonderful.
Sure.
Yeah,
okay, now this is a shorty one. Okay.
That's the one I wrote myself, but go ahead.
Well, no, you had, no. That's from Southington, Connecticut.
Oh.
All right. Here's one from West Simsbury. We thoroughly enjoyed the evening spent with you. You are a true inspiration for those of us who are aging, yet still want to do God's work. Today is our real wedding anniversary, 55 years.
Wow.
We are so grateful to renew our vows. Thanks to your surprise visit. God bless you.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, also, like, your blessings and your presence and, just coming, because sometimes you just hit the right moment.
Yeah, I remember that, going over that house there. And it was 55 years, yeah. Yeah, it's good to, I always ask people I asked the bride, like 50 years in the hospital, I said, when did you decide to have your husband ask you to marry you? And there are people who are married for 50 years. And it's that older generation, but you don't see the younger generation hanging around as long as most of those elderly couples. They break up, like today when I was talking to, if I'm repeating myself, be nice, I'm 86. I was in a room there, and the nurse says, Father, I'm Catholic, I'm going to get married. I said, wonderful. Are you going to get married in a Catholic church? He says, oh, no. My fiancé doesn't want to get married in a Catholic church. I says, well, your fiancé doesn't love you. Love is desiring something good for the person. And if you're not willing to give up 45 minutes of your life for the sake of your wife, then you better ask yourself, does he really love you? Marriage isn't getting married to be happy. Marriage is getting married to bring happiness to the other person. And if you're not 45 minutes, then what happens when the babies come? Either that, dogs. But what happens when the babies come? How are the kids being brought up? So a lot of people don't realize the purpose. I asked that of I went to the pharmacy today to get some vitamin C tablets, and I started talking to the lady, and I said, well, thank you for making me your priority. I know you're very busy. Busy means be under Satan's yoke. Thank you for making me your priority. And let me ask you a question. I looked at your finger, and I said, how long have you been married? She says, a year. And I said, okay, I'll double this price on these vitamin C tablets if you could tell me the purpose of marriage. And it's interesting that people get married don't know the purpose of marriage. I said, I came in here, and now you made me your priority. You're very busy, B-U-S-Y, be under Satan's yoke. But you made me your priority by helping me. And so you made a sacrifice of your time to come over to help me. And the purpose of marriage is not to be happy, but to bring happiness to the other person. And she looked at me, and she said, yeah, you're right. And I think a lot of people go into marriage to be happy, and they forget that you don't get, like I said, I told a sister today, I said, I don't go visit these people to be happy. I go visit them to bring happiness to them. And I want to make sure there's a smile or a thank you on their face when I leave, you know, and not that everybody's all excited when I leave, but at least there's a sense of peace. And after, I remember one night I came home from the hospital and I said, Lord, I had a great time bringing happiness to people. So my job is not to be happy, become a priest to be happy, but my job is to bring happiness to others. And there's a great satisfaction when you do that. But if you're all but me, myself, and I, that's not very satisfying. But if you are concerned of bringing happiness to others, my job is just like a husband, to bring happiness to my wife, which is the church, and the church, in fact, to return. But if I became a priest to be happy, I'd quit after about 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks. I would have stretched it out. But anyways, okay, you got anything else worthwhile to tell me that I could answer? This is Ask Father, whatever you want to ask priest, but whatever you want to ask Father, but afraid to ask, then...
Now's the time.
Now's the time. Okay, what other question you have for me? Don't make it too hard. By the
you
way,
have other callers calling? I don't want to take a whole time, and how's the time?
well, your questions are priceless, so it'll cost me money before I hang up. Okay.
You just want a relief, that's all. Okay. Okay, so you have no one else waiting on the line, is that it?
Not right now. Let's keep...
you're going to be 87, and the good news is...
Get closer to the mic because you're a little fluffy. Okay, go ahead.
All right. All right, so you're going to be a year older. Good news is going to be a year older. Okay, what are your plans for like next year? So Tolton is one, and what's your general direction? I mean, you're talking about connected with the prisons, or you're just waiting for the like God directs you, or to call you, or what happens? Or
you're talking about 2020. This is the new year. Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't look for the job at the prison. That came to me. I didn't look for the job of the hospital. That came to me. And the only thing I looked for was this beautiful TV program. That although Joni mentioned it, and once Joni is the manager here. In fact, I saw her tonight. I haven't seen her for a long time. I said, Joni, when you were single, we used to go out to lunch. Now, when you're married, I never see you. What happened to you?
She's happily married.
So, although this one, I think Bill Dobbs might have mentioned it to me. And I said, yeah, I'd like to do it. But all the other things, like the rosaries, the crosses I started, but I didn't expect it to be 120,000 crosses out there. And when the rosaries, I don't know how that happened, but they start coming. Somebody put my name on the list, the rosary list down in Kentucky, and people saw my list, so I get caught. So I didn't ask to do that. I ended up calling a guy, a priest put my name on, and then about a month ago, this has been about 3 years I've been doing it. So most of the things that I do, it come from God and not from me.
Yeah.
And today, I got a call, will you say Mass on next Friday? This week, I've sang Mass on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. All those at different parishes. But
Connecticut.
And eastern Mississippi River. But none of them, I didn't ask. A lady called and said, we want to do Mass on the 20th. Somebody called up, would you say Mass in a convalescent home? So I don't go looking for trouble or looking for Mass or work.
Well, both.
so
there is a connection there.
Okay, well, somebody else is calling. Thanks a lot for calling from New Britain. And you have a good day, okay?
Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Father Ed, you're on the air with Father Ed.
Hi, Father. How are you?
Oh, the dynamic duo.
How are you?
Good. I got a cold, and I was going to ask my pharmacist if if zinc is good for it.
Yes, zinc is good for it. It's probably good. They have nasal sprays, so if your problem happens to be in your nose, that's a good thing. You shouldn't take more than 50 milligrams per day because it might have the opposite effect, so check what's in your multiple vitamin before you start taking any. If you have a sore throat, it's probably best to take it as a lozenge because it'll get right to the throat area.
Somebody gave me some longes, whatever you call them.
Yep.
Every 3 hours or so, you just put it on your tongue and it's okay?
Yeah, that's good. Just check the dosage on it and make sure you don't go over 50 milligrams a day.
Oh, and I've been using the green tea. I just got the cold yesterday, but you see, I've been in the hospital and I'm really worn out, I think, because I may go from 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock at night. So I think I'm just overtired.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I want to relax for an hour on the TV show today. So,
well, you keep a busy schedule.
oh, tell me.
Go to the hospital, you probably get exposed to a lot of things, too.
Oh, yeah, I get exposed to everything. But question, I heard that you were doing something about a tea. What's the name of that tea you're trying to develop?
It's called brain food.
Brain food? What do you mean?
Brain food. It's called brain food because it has all different ingredients in it that help promote a healthy brain. A lot of things that you might get in your foods, a lot of things that you might not. And in this way, if it's in a tea form, it's acceptable to everybody because you just have to have a glass of liquid, and instead of plain water, tea is great.
Oh, okay. Somebody sent me a box of green tea, organic green tea from France. Is there such a thing as organic tea also?
Yes, organic tea is great. That's the best way to go. Actually, the Europeans were probably the first ones that started the whole prompting of the organic movement in Germany especially, and then in England. And actually, even the Parliament, the British, the royal family actually is very into organic growing and organic principles.
And tea.
And tea.
A question, like I looked in the refrigerator and somebody brought in some blueberries, but they were not organic. So, the blueberries are blueberries. So why? What's the big thing about organic blueberries, organic milk?
The organic blueberries, they don't have pesticides on them, and that's very important. It's always disconcerting to us because, everyone is saying, eat more fruits, and that's very true, but you really do need to eat them when they're organic, and especially the berries because they have the most pesticides on them. So,
stop right now. What do you mean pesticides on blueberries or? You tell me apple, whatchamacallit, bananas are protected and oranges are protected. But what about the others? Like apples, I like apples. You want me to stop eating apples? Apple day will keep a doctor.
Well, I should eat apples all the time, but just make sure they're organic. The thing that goes with the really the fleshy fruits like the berries, like the blueberries, strawberries, things like that, if they're sprayed with pesticides, you really can't get the pesticides off because they're very fleshy, so they absorb quite a bit, unlike the hard oranges and stuff like that.
Well, explain to me, where do these pesticides come from?
Well, they come from the growers. The growers spray their produce
to keep the bugs off of them.
To keep the bugs off so that they always
look really good.
Pretty, they get the biggest. Sometimes they spread nutrients on them to make them grow exceptionally big. So that's really what the idea of the pesticide, that they look pretty and they grow big.
Now, does that apply to like the milk? Like you got me drinking organic 1% milk. What's the difference between organic and non? Most of the milk is not organic. It's just milk. What's the difference here?
Right. Most of the milk is not organic, but it is best to get organic. And also by getting organic, it's not, the cows aren't exposed to hormones. And when they're exposed to hormones, they're put into a state where it's actually detrimental to the animals, and they actually are forced to produce more milk than they normally would, because normally an animal just produces milk when they have a baby. So this makes them get into a state where they are constantly overproducing milk. And if they feed these cows pesticide-laden feed or grain or anything like that that the cows happen to eat, then that goes into the milk, and then you eat it.
Oh, okay. Well, how does the milk become organic milk?
It becomes organic milk because the farmers will go through a process where they just feed and raise their animals with organic principles and organic feed, and then they have to go through a rigorous process with the government to show that that's how they are only feeding their animals. And then they're allowed to put the USDA, the little green and white label that you see on a lot of products.
Oh, okay. So what's your advice to an old priest who's trying to stay alive for another year?
Eat organic.
Drink green tea.
Drink green tea. Get your rest.
Okay, I got 2 of those. It's just getting
Water, walk.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. With that cold, I've been drinking a lot of water.
Good.
And but I think I just overextended myself in the hospital. I went too far. I'd end up at 8:45 at night.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
my gosh.
And that I just overdid it.
Yeah.
But that's it. Okay. What advice do you give to? Why would I want to get this special tea that you're putting together with ingredients? And what's the name of it again?
It's called brain food.
Brain food. Okay.
Brain food.
Now, why would I want to get this brain food? What advantage is for it?
Well, some of the advantages, not clinically proven, but the ingredients in and of themselves are known to promote good, healthy brain function. And we always want to have a very acute brain. We don't want to get dementia. We don't want to get into Alzheimer's. And we want to just live the best life that we can live, and this helps with that. It also lowers blood pressure, decreases inflammation, and a lot of illnesses come from inflammation, whether they be cardiovascular, any type of pain that you might have. But mainly it's to give you a good mental acuity so that you don't get dementia and you don't get Alzheimer's, and it really stems from what you eat.
Oh, thank you so much. Have you got any other advice for me and my listeners?
Well, live a full life, but always get your rest. And you always have to do some walking, get some good exercise in, get some water or some green tea or some herbal teas, and generally watch what you eat, with going with always organic whenever possible.
You know, it's interesting, when I worked at this company where we were trying to develop a cure for the common cold. It was many years ago. Quite interesting study we were working on. But I remember the person I was working with, he's an MD, PhD, and he said to me, he says, "I hope we never find a cure for the common cold," which I thought was such an unusual statement. And so I asked him why, and he said, because he says the cold is there to let you know that you've overextended yourself and that now you need to rest. And if we find a cure for that common cold, we'll never stop.
Oh, that's interesting.
This is really the way I look at it, God's way of saying, okay, time to take a rest, time to nurture yourself now, and then you can get up and nurture others again. But now it's time to step back a little bit and nurture yourself.
Oh, I'll go to bed early tonight.
Sounds good, Father.
Good. Well, thank you for that advice, and I'm sure I'm going to run this show more than once, because it was very, very educational what you taught us, and I hope the good news that you brought will be spread out, not just tonight, but also when they have reruns. And I hope I could have you on again to give us a good, healthy direction. You're giving us guidance. God guides us. You're guiding us in a healthier way, and a way that we can be healthy and happy and holy. Happy, holy, and in a better way. So thank you very much for calling. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Thank you, Father. It's always our pleasure.
We'd love to be on your show.
Thank you so much. It was very educational. God bless you.
God bless you, too.
God bless
Take
you,
care.
Father.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
We don't have too much time left, less than 5 minutes. But if any of you want to call me at 860-321-7405. I started about almost an hour ago to read this story to you. Sharon had been married to Bob for 7 years. They had 2 beautiful children. But Sharon's mother began to sense that her daughter was starting to go through a hard time in her marriage. One day she called Sharon and said, "If I pay for a babysitter, will you go shopping with me tomorrow?" Sharon jumped at the invitation. While eating lunch together the next day, after shopping, Sharon's mother leaned over and said to her, "I had a reason for asking you out today. I have something important to tell you. It's something my mother told me and asked me to tell my daughter when the right time came. My mother called it 3 guidelines for a happy marriage. The first guideline is this: never keep score in marriage. Never keep score in marriage. Don't ever say to your spouse, I've been doing more than my share. I've been doing more than my share. It's not fair. The day you begin to keep score is the day your marriage begins to die. Remember, never keep score in your marriage. The second guideline is this: never be too busy for your children. Never to be too busy for children. Don't ever say to them, can't you see I'm busy? Remember, busy means be under Satan's yoke. Come back later. The day you become too busy for your children is the day your communication with them begins to die. The day you become too busy for your children is the day your communication with them begins to die. And the third guideline is this: never miss a day praying for your family. Never miss a day praying for your family. The day you stop conversing with God about your family is the day you deprive them of the greatest gift a mother can give. The day you stop conversing with God about your family is the day you deprive them of the greatest gift a mother can give. As her mother finished, Sharon took her mother's hand, her eyes filled with tears, and said, Mom, Mom, that's the most beautiful advice you could give me. But why did you wait 7 years to tell me? Why didn't you tell me the day Bob and I got married? It would have helped me so much, so very much. And Sharon's mother said, honey, I wanted to tell you the day that you and Bob got married. Oh, how I wanted to tell you. I wanted to tell you with all my heart, but I knew it wasn't the right time. I knew you weren't ready for it. It wasn't the right time. When you would be able to understand what I was wanted to tell you. Isn't that true? Like the story, one reason why I like it is, of course, is the beauty and the wisdom it contains. So, my last point is, I read the dash. I read of a reverend who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates of his tombstone from the beginning and to the end. So when your eulogy is being read with your life actions to rehash, would you be pleased with the things they say, how you spent your dash, the time from the day you were born to the time you die? How are you spending your dash? Well, thank you for giving me part of your dash. Today, I'm really excited about the program. We had wonderful callers, and we had some real good insights. I know I learned a lot about health. I learned a lot about what I should be eating, and I learned a lot what I shouldn't be eating. And I learned also what it is a great joy to be a chaplain at a hospital, and a great joy to be there with you for this hour. My name is Father Ed Nadonley for the Father Nadonley Good News Fund. And by the way, if you'd like to call me, not on this show, but call me at my office, call me at 860-335-2342. 860-335-2342. 2342. God bless you, and may God bless you and you and your family, and I hope to see you soon. Good night, and take care of yourself.